Good evening, I'm Carla Metz, and welcome to the Northern Sun Experience. The Central Region Tournament just wrapped up, and with Southwest Minnesota State, Augustana, Upper Iowa, and Minnesota State Moorhead making the tournament, that leaves us quite a few games to review. MSUM's NSIC tournament run was cut short by Concordia St. Paul, but with a strong regular season performance, they still managed to earn the number 6 seed. So how would they do in the first round of the big dance? We'd find out in their meeting with number 3, East Central. We start in the second half with the Dragons down by as much as 11 when they find some momentum down the stretch and inside the paint. First, it's Addison Park with the putback. Then it's Matt Anderson with the assist from Tanner Kretschmann. Next, Kretschmann comes up with a basket of his own, and that ties things up at 92 with under a minute left. They'd meet in OT, but the Tigers would take things from there, outscoring them 23-14. The Tigers best the Dragons 115-106. Next, it's SMSU facing Arkansas Tech. Down by 2 at the break, the Mustangs would come back and shoot 48% the next half, making 19 of 27 shots at the line. Led by senior Joey Bartlett with 25 points, SMSU would advance to the semis with a 93-82 win over Arkansas Tech. Next up, it's Upper Iowa taking on the host school Northwest Missouri State, down 13-8 when Jordan Hay dances around the defender for the and one. The Peacocks would continue falling by as much as 11 in the second, but would tie things up at the buzzer. A 3 from Carson Parker sends it into overtime, but the host school would prove to be too much, outscoring them 16-11. Upper Iowa falls to Northwest Missouri State 79-74. Augustana hoping to advance after a meeting with Arkansas Monticello, and they do just that. Down by 6 at the half, Augie would find a 13-0 run. It's Mike Busack with a jumper, and next possession, it's Jordan Spencer with a 3 that rattles home. The duo would combine for 36 points in the 76-69 victory over the Boll Weevils. The semis pitted SMSU against East Central. SMSU down by 4 early. Ryan Brueggemann doing what he does best, driving inside despite being overcrowded with defenders to get the three-point play. Down by 6 in the second half, Brueggemann rebounds his own missed layup and kicks it out to Taylor Schaefer for 3. Then it's deja vu with Schaefer from behind the perimeter. That ties things up at 58. Brueggemann would be sent to the line 5 times at the end, going 5 of 5, and SMSU moves to the finals with a score of 74-70. Another tournament, another chance for Northwest Missouri State and Augustana to battle it out. Jordan Spencer firing at the start from the perimeter, but Bearcats' Brett Daughtry would fire back, scoring the next 4 Bearcat points. Down by 3 early when Mike Busack answers to tie it up, but that would be the last tied score at 6-all. Adam Byer pulling up from inside the paint. He had 12 on the night, but those efforts would not be enough. The Bearcats roll over Augustana 74-53 to advance to the finals. And that brings us to the championship game between number 1 Northwest Missouri State and number 2 SMSU. Bearcats come close to a steal, but Brueggemann saves it and sends it to Joey Bartlett, who turns the broken play into points. SMSU down by 3, a little over 7 minutes to go in the first half. Brueggemann pulls up from inside the paint. That brings them within 1, 16-15, but Northwest Missouri State responds on their next possession. Justin Pitts for 2. He'd have 25 on the night. Next half, SMSU down by 6 when Carter Kirk finds the rim with some assistance from Bartlett. That brings the deficit down to 41-37. The Mustangs would continue to chip away. Just 12 seconds left of the game. Justin Pitts makes both free throws to go up by 4. Brueggemann takes on 2 defenders for the basket. The score is now 54-52. Pitt is sent back to the line to give them a 3-point cushion. That leaves none other than SMSU's number 3 to respond. Brueggemann pulls up from the perimeter for the tie, but the shot's no good. SMSU's run ends there with a final score of 55-52.
Probably the difference in the game is the free throws. They were just able to get, for whatever reason, they were able to get to the foul line, and more than us. We only got the foul line 4 times compared to their 16, and we just, we got to be able to take contact and get in there and make some plays a little bit better.
When we come back, our basketball analyst Jordan Dalton will be here to break down the NSIC's performance in the men's Central Region.
The Northern Sun Experience on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and Dakota Land Honda.
Welcome back to the Northern Sun Experience. We're joined by our basketball analyst, former Augustana point guard Jordan Dalton. Jordan, a lot went down at regional, so we'll just start from the beginning. MSU Moorhead, as you mentioned last week, had a full 17 days between games. Dragons gave East Central all they could handle in the 3-6 matchup, but the Tigers eventually prevailed in overtime. So what were you able to take away from this game?
Well, we were worried about the Dragons having a little rust on the offensive end. Obviously, that wasn't an issue as they scored over 100 points in that overtime thriller. But it's kind of that old saying, defense wins championships, right? You typically don't score 100 points and lose the basketball game. On the offensive end, I thought Tanner Kretschmann played great. Obviously finished with 35 points and 7 assists. So they got things done on that end of the floor, but they just couldn't get stops consistently to get the win. And that's unfortunate because the Dragons did have such a great season, both obviously in the regular season and for their two tournaments in the NSIC tournament and the regional to end the way they did. Is a little sad, but hats off to the Dragons on a great season. Like I said, I'm sure this will be a lot of motivation moving forward as we get into the next season as well.
Right, and the final score of the East Central game was 115 to 106. Well, moving on to Upper Iowa. Meanwhile, nearly played spoiler against the host school and number 1 seed Northwest Missouri State. Peacocks took the Bearcats to overtime. Now, it may not be a moral victory, but what were you able to take away from Upper Iowa's effort in that game? For sure.
It was a phenomenal effort, and it was a typical effort for the Peacocks all season. You know, they kept the game close, and then Carson Parker had a great three-pointer at the buzzer to send the game in overtime. And that's just typical, like I said, of their season this season. They were a team that nobody really counted on to do anything when it came to conference play. All they did was win 22 games for this season. And they just played with an extreme amount of confidence. And that's the type of season that you like to see a team like Upper Iowa have, because that can be program building. You know, they can build off of that. They can recruit off of that. You know, obviously they lost 4 great seniors this year, all 1,000-point scorers. So they're losing a lot, but they also have a lot coming back. And so I think this, like you said, no moral victories in basketball, right. But the Peacocks have to be proud of their effort. Heck, to even make the tournament the way they did, you know, getting to the championship game of the NSIC tournament and making some noise. You know, like I said, they were one shot away from beating the number 1 team in the region and top 2 team in the country. So hats off to the Peacocks on such a great season, and hopefully they can use that as a building block moving forward.
Right, and the final score to that game was 79-74. They were outscored in overtime just 16-11, and they finished their record with 22-11. Well, another team that made it into the Central region was Augustana, who overcame a deficit to defeat Arkansas Monticello in round 1. Then they ran into a buzzsaw with Northwest Missouri State in round 2, despite the loss, making it back to the round of 32 after losing so much from last year's team. Is this an example of good coaching, of good players, or both?
I would definitely have to say it's both. Obviously, the players have to go out there and make plays on a consistent basis. I thought Jordan Spencer at the head of the team was great all season long. You know, in the past, he's been known as more of a facilitator, get others involved, and get others easy shots, where this season he was really counted on to score a lot. And he really accepted that challenge and stepped up to that challenge. Finished the season averaging 16 or 15 points a game and still over 7 assists. So I thought he did a great job. And to be honest, Mike Busak, he was a savior for him. They didn't really have a lot of scoring coming back in the front line. Busak came in, stepped in right away, finished the season averaging 15 points a game, and was a great consistent scorer all season long. And so when you look at the player standpoint, those two as a 1 and 2 punch really did the Vikings a great deal of effort this season. But then, like you said, coaching, you lose 3 of the top players in school history, your top 2 scorers ever to put on an Augustana jersey after winning the national championship. And Coach Biller is still able to come back, get 24 wins, make it to the regional tournament. So just a testament to him and his staff and how much work they put in to getting guys to buy into the system and accept their roles on the team. So great season all the way around. And I thought they really exceeded a lot of expectations in a lot of situations.
Right, and their third straight appearance in the region semifinal, so definitely a lot to be proud of for that program. Well, finally, the reigning NSIC champs, SMSU, makes it all the way to the title game before falling to Northwest Missouri State. A remarkable ride for the Mustangs. Does this team have the staying power to come in the years to come? Yeah,
as long as Ryan Brueggemann comes back, I think they'll be all right. We talked about it. He's just one of the best point guards, not only in this conference, but in the country. You know, he's such a great pick-and-roll player. He can really hit the pull-up jump shot. He can get to the rim, finishes at the rim for a guy his size remarkably. So I definitely think they have staying power, and they're a team that just knows who they are. So I think they'll have a lot of confidence coming back next season to hopefully take that regional crown.
Coming up next, we'll switch gears to the women's side and discuss how Northern State and MSU Moorhead did in their region. Welcome back to the Northern Sun Experience. Once again, joined by Jordan Dalton. We're going to talk women's hoop at the Central Region now. Only 2 NSIC schools were down there, and they both lost in the first round. We'll discuss Northern State first, an absolute heartbreaker as the number 8 seed. They led number 1 Emporia State most of the game, and then they lost on a last-second three-pointer. This is the 4th year in a row now that the Wolves have lost in round 1. Can they take anything away from this game to help them get over this hump maybe next year?
Absolutely. I think what they can take away is they can play with any team in the region. Obviously, like you said, taking the number 1 team in the region down to the final seconds has to give you a lot of confidence that you belonged in that field. And I thought Northern State did a great job of the way they finished the season. You know, they came into the NSIC tournament having won 9 of their last 10 games, and they had to win the championship to even get to the region. So they rattle off 4 wins there, make the region, and then prove that they deserve to be there. And so the toughest part when you look at Northern State is how they finished the game. You know, they were leading that game, the game in the regional by 10 points by 8 points going into the fourth quarter and got outscored by 10 points. So you just have to be able to finish games and really just close games out. And I think that'll be a great motivating factor as they enter the season next year, because they know they can play with anybody, but how do you win those close games and how do you close those games out?
Right, and then it's their 4th straight season with 20 or more wins, so definitely hope that they get a little bit further in the tournament in the future. Well, meanwhile, MSU Moorhead had its worst offensive game of the season against Sioux Falls in the NSIC tournament, scoring 45 points on February 25th. Now, in their next game, the region matchup with Central Missouri, another 45 points. Did the Dragons' offense run out of gas, and why were they out of sync this game?
I just don't think they ever got into a flow. We talk about chemistry being so important on the offensive end, and the Dragons just never seem to get into any type of flow. Committed 18 turnovers, and when you do things like that, you're just not going to win games. Again, a sad way to see such a great season end, but the Dragons had a great regular season. Now that they've gotten to taste a little postseason action, hopefully that can carry over to next year.
All right, well, thanks so much, Jordan, for coming in. Well, coming up on our Under the Northern Sun campus alumni feature, we showcase the University of Minnesota Crookston. Welcome back to the Northern Sun Experience. It's time once again to name 2 new members to the NSIC's 25th anniversary team. Congrats to former MSU Moorhead basketball star Brett Beeson, the 1995-96 Division II Player of the Year. Beeson was a scoring machine who still holds the NSIC single-season scoring record average of 33.8 points per game. And congrats to former Wayne State basketball standout Ashley Arlen, a 2-time NSIC and Central Region Player of the Year. Arlen was the 2012 NSIC Tournament MVP. She led the Wildcats to a team championship and advanced all the way to the Elite 8. And sticking with basketball, our Under the Northern Sun campus alumni feature highlights a former hoopster from Minnesota Crookston who's adjusting to her post-playing career.
A year ago, Katrina Nordic was opening up what would turn into a stellar senior season on the basketball court, in which she would lead the Golden Eagles to a program best in wins and a 2nd consecutive trip to the NSIC Sanford Health quarterfinals in Sioux Falls. Now a recent graduate of the University of Minnesota Crookston in applied studies with an emphasis in animal science and education, Nordic is back to where everything started on the family dairy farm outside of Perham, Minnesota.
Well, just after I first went to college, I just really missed the farm a lot. It was just something I realized I kind of wanted to do for the rest of my life, so it's been great to be back at home and around family and everything, so it's just been really nice.
After getting married in the summer of 2015, Katrina and Josh Nordic spent their first year of marriage apart, as Katrina was finishing up her degree in basketball at UMC and Josh was finishing up his degree at Bemidji State.
Yeah, it's awesome just after being apart for the first 8 or 9 months of our marriage, now being back home together. It's pretty awesome not having to drive or just see each other every other weekend like we did for the first 8 or 9 months, so it's been super awesome just to be back home and be together finally.
Katrina takes us through what a day on the dairy farm is like for her.
Well, the day starts early, 5 a.m. I'm up milking cows, so that takes about 2.5 hours. So then I come in, and if I'm subbing that day, I'll be to school by 8 and sub all day long, and then go to practice for about an hour. I have to cut practices short and get home to milk again at night. So I mean, pretty busy unless I don't sub some days, and then I'm just kind of home during the day and taking care of things in the house. But other than that, it's pretty much all.
Even though she is loving life on the dairy farm with Josh and her family, Katrina has great memories of the last 2 years helping lead the Golden Eagles to back-to-back NSIC Sanford Health tournaments.
It was awesome. I think about my whole career, but especially those last 2 years, like you said, really stand out. And I mean, a big part of that, I think, was just the respect that my teammates and we all developed for each other and for our coaches. Everybody just pretty much bought in, and yeah, they're awesome memories I have from especially those past 2 years.
During her time at UMC, Katrina had success on and off the basketball court as she was a 2015-16 COSIDA Academic All-District selection. She owes a lot of her success to the great staff members at UMC who helped set her up for success at UMC and beyond.
The professors and the teachers I had, they just really taught you how to just value relationships, and some of them I still have relationships and still, be in touch with them right now, and just the small campus and the friendly atmosphere of everybody there, it just really taught you to value people and create a network and a web of people that you're always going to be in touch with and that will always be there for you, and I think that's the biggest thing.
Through her experience as a Golden Eagle, Katrina forged relationships off and on the basketball court that will last a lifetime.
Yeah, I've gained, tremendous relationships. Like you said, Alexa, she's probably my best friend still right now. We talk all the time, and Megan, I just talked to her the other day too, and Michaela, and Evan, Ashley, the list goes on and on. There's a handful of them that have come to the farm and stayed with me for a weekend, and I still plan on going back to some games and watch some of those girls this year that are still playing. So yeah, the relationships that I've gained and built from being on that team are awesome.
A major contributor to Nordic's success on and off the basketball court was the relationship she had for all 4 seasons with her head coach Mike Roislin, a relationship that continues to grow to this day.
He really teaches you about basketball, but he teaches you about life and what's important in it, and the importance of valuing relationships and the importance of being loyal to people and trustworthy, and I have a great relationship with him still now, and there's nobody else I would have rather played for in college. He's one of my favorite coaches probably ever that I've ever had, and I have a ton of respect for him, and the list, I could go on and on the list of how much he's taught me about life and just everything. So he's a great guy, great coach.
Katrina shares a piece of advice to anybody that is considering Minnesota Crookston as one of their college choices.
Just that, college is a scary thing. You don't know what you're going into, and UMC is the place where you're going to be taken care of. There's people there that care about you. Whether you're on a team or not, the professors there care about you. You're your own person. You're not just a number like we always say at another university. You're a person, and they know your name, and it's just you feel like welcome there, and you feel like it's a home after only a couple short weeks, and that was probably the most comforting thing.
When we come back, it was a festival for Division II championships down in Birmingham, Alabama, and several NSIC athletes had reason to celebrate. Those highlights are next.
The Northern Sun Experience on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and Dakota Land Honda.
Welcome back to the Northern Sun Experience. Unlike Division I, Division II takes the opportunity to combine several national championships into one big festival. And this year, the festivities were in Birmingham, Alabama, where the National Wrestling, Swimming, and Indoor and Track and Field Championship took place. Let's start in the pool, and it was a breakout for Northern State swimmer Hannah Castigard. The junior won 2 national titles in the 200-yard butterfly and 400-yard individual medley. As a team, the Wolves finished 16th out of 40 schools. Minnesota State finished 13th as a team. Let's move to the track where the NSIC emerged with several national champions on both the men's and women's side. Starting with the men's triple jump, the NSIC champ is now the national champ. Minnesota State's Michael Sandel outleaps everyone with a jump of 16.11 meters. Meanwhile, in the men's pole vault, Sioux Falls rose to the top and then some. USF's Scott Greenman is your national champion with a height of 5.35 meters. The Cougars actually had 3 of the top 5 pole vaulters. Jagger Grant is 3rd, while Jacob Zebedee is 5th, and USF continued to vault its way up on the women's side. Courtney Crandall is your national champion in the women's pole vault with a height of 4.32 meters. On the track now, and a photo finish goes the way of UMary's Alexis Zeiss. She takes the top spot in the women's 5,000 meter run with a time of 16:23.22. 0.6 of a second faster than second place. And finally, your 5th national champion from the NSIC hails from Minnesota State. Altonice Williams takes the 60-meter hurdles in another photo finish, 8.37 seconds. Second place was 8.38 seconds, 100th of a second is your difference. The NSIC had more than 24 other competitors finish in the top 20 nationally. For complete results, you can visit northernsun.org. Meanwhile, on the wrestling mat, it will not be a three-peat for St. Cloud State. The Huskies as a team finished second at the national championship to Notre Dame of Ohio. St. Cloud State has now finished either first or second at nationals in 6 of the last 7 years. Individually, there were no national champions from the NSIC. MSU Moorhead's Blake Bosch came the closest, finishing runner-up at 133 pounds. Bosch lost a 7-5 decision to the eventual champion, Ashland's Michael Labrie. Upper Iowa's Josh Walker finishes in 7th place at 133 pounds. Other NSIC finishers include St. Cloud State's Brett VELASQUEZ in 3rd place at 125 pounds. VELASQUEZ was the 2016 national champion in that class. St. Cloud State's James Pleski came in 4th at 149 pounds, while the Huskies' Larry BOMSTAD is 3rd at 157 pounds. At 174, Minnesota State's Adam Cooling finishes in 3rd, 184 pounds. Augustana's Arrow Amo is 5th, while Minnesota State's Corey Abernathy is 8th at 197. Northern State's Joe Gomez is 7th. Minnesota State's Matt Bloomy is 8th. Finally, in the heavyweight division at 285, 3 NSIC wrestlers go 3, 4, and 5. St. Cloud State's Austin Gorgon, Augustana's Michael Lohman, and Upper Iowa's Logan Hobb. Once again, a thank you to all of our NSIC member schools who contributed to this week's show. We'll see you next time on the Northern Sun Experience.